Hey guys, so this video we're going to be doing dividing integers using number line and counters. Okay, so we're going to again model using a number line and counter. All right, this is our first problem. We have 12 divided by 3. Now you'll notice for division, you're going to start off with a big group of counters, right? And we are dividing it into groups. So we have 12, and you can see that we have 12 counters here, and we are going to divide them into 3 equal groups. Don't forget that they have to be the same size group. Now we can look at our key, and we know that the yellow counters are positive, which does match, right? We have a positive 12, we have positive yellow counters. And then our red counters are going to be negative. Okay, so that's always a good thing to take note of. Now we are dividing by 3. So what we want to do is out of these 12, can we divide these into 3 equal groups? We can. 1, 2, 3. So that's what that looks like. They're all equal. They all have 4 counters in each group. So your answer is going to be how many is in one group? 4. Okay, and we can tell that they're positive 4 because they're yellow. So our answer is going to be positive 4. Let's look at another problem. Negative 10 divided by 2. Now we're looking at blue and green counters, but same thing. Our key tells us which ones are positive, which ones are negative. Our problem is negative 10, and we do see 10 negative green counters, and we're dividing them into 2 equal groups. Okay, so if we divide these into 2 equal groups, let's use a different color here. Maybe like this. Okay. And when we divided them into 2 equal groups, each group is the same size. Our answer is negative 5 because inside each group we have 5 counters and they're green, so they are negative. Okay, so this looks more like what you might see. We know it's a division problem because you have a total, you have this big chunk of counters right there. You have this big sum of counters, and we are breaking them up into smaller groups. We see these groups right here. Okay, so we know that this is division. Now, if it were the other way around, you had these groups and they each had some inside of them, and then you end with a total, then that is multiplication. But we know that this one is going to be division. So I'm going to go ahead and write my division sign. And remember, your problem needs to match the model. Otherwise, the model is modeling a different problem, right? You have to be able to see that model in your problem. So how many do we start with right here? We start with 16 counters. Some of you guys some of you will want to just put the 16, but look at our key. Remember, we have to look at our key. Our key says the green counters are negative. So this is a negative 16. We are dividing them into how many groups? I see 4 groups. 4 groups. And our answer is how many is in one of these groups? In one of those groups, we have 4 counters and they are negative. So our answer is negative 4. Okay, let's look at another one. How many do we start with? Well, first off, we know that we're starting with this big total, and then we're breaking them up into groups. So it is division. Okay, and then I see that we have 9. They're blue counters, and our key says blue is positive, so just 9. Divided by how many groups do we split them up into? Into 3 groups, and our answer is how many is in one of these groups? A positive 3. Okay, we know it's positive because our key says blue is positive. Now, what happens if it changes colors? When it's changing colors, it means that it's going from either positive to negative or negative to positive. Okay, so when you see this color change here, you need to take note of it. When you see that the color changes from blue to green, or in other words, it went from positive to negative, we are dividing by a negative number. So we're going to start off just the same way. What do we start with? I see that I have a positive 9, right? Because we have 9 positive blue counters. We're dividing, but it changed signs, right? It changed colors, it changed signs. So we're dividing by a negative number. Now, how many groups did we break it up into? 3 groups. And our answer, again, is how many is in one group? We have 3 counters, but they're green, and our key says green is negative. So our answer is negative 3. Okay, so if the sign changes, then we know it's being divided by a negative number. Okay, let's look again. Sign is changing, right? There's two different colors. And we know that we're starting with a sum and we're breaking it up into groups. So this is going to be negative. This is going to be division. How many do we start with? A negative 12. Remember, our key says red is negative. Remember to look at your key. So we start with negative 12 counters. We're dividing by a negative number because it swapped colors here. It went from negative to positive. How many groups are there? There's 2 groups. What is our answer? How many is in one of those groups? A positive 6. Okay? Positive because the counters are black, and inside one group there are 6. Now you might get something that looks like this. We're not really looking at colors, but you might be looking at, just the positive and the negative symbols, and that's fine too, right? So we start with 6 positive counters here. They're being broken up into groups, so it's division. How many groups? 3 groups. They stay positive. Okay, so it's going to be positive 3. And then how many is in one group? Positive 2. Okay, your key is always going to tell you what is positive and negative. Okay, same thing here. We don't have colors, that's fine. How many do we start with? Positive 6. We're breaking them up into groups. So it's going to be division. Now I notice that the sign changes here. We went from positive and it changed to negative. So we are dividing by a negative number. How many groups are there? There's 3. And then within one group, what do we see? We see 2 negative counters. So our answer is going to be negative 2. Okay? So that is, let's look at number line now. So that's all we have for counters. Let's look at these number lines here. So we did this in class. This number line, you're going to be given a number line, and I want you to tell me what the problem might be. Now, before we even start that, if you're given this number line, is it multiplication or is it division? So it is all about where the number line is starting. For here, we are starting at 0. If it starts at 0, we are looking at multiplication because it starts at 0. Okay? Simple as that. Now, if we want to figure out what the problem is for here, it is multiplication. The length of my arrow is 4. How many arrows do I have? 2. Where does it end? 8. Okay, same thing. We're looking at a number line. Is it multiplication or is it division? It's all about where it starts. Now, this one is starting at 9, and we're making our way to 0. So it's going to be division because it's starting somewhere else. Starts at 9. And for division, your first number is where you start, 9, divided by how many arrows there are. There are 1, 2, 3 arrows. And your answer is going to be the length of the arrow. Each one of my arrows is the length of 3. All right. So what is a number line problem really going to look like? What's going to look like is I'm going to give you the number line and I'm going to ask you what is the problem that it's modeling. Okay. So I'm going to give you the number line. I'm not going to ask you to draw a number line. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. And then you are going to tell me what the problem is. So this one, it starts at 0. So we know it is multiplication. Can't be division. So we know those aren't right. Okay. None of my arrows are even touching the negative numbers. Okay. We see how out of B and D, this D has a negative 2 right there. Our arrows aren't even touching negative numbers. So we know it's not D. Our answer for this one is B. Let's do a few more here. Okay, it's starting at 0, so I know that it's not division. Okay, where are the arrows in for multiplication is what your answer is. So our answer has to equal negative 12. And out of these two, there's only one that equals negative 12. So our answer is D. All right, now this one is a division problem because we know it starts at 24. It doesn't start at 0, so it can't be these multiplication problems. Okay, it's starting at 24. Both of our problems show us that's starting at 24 here. You are dividing by the number of arrows we have. Okay, we are dividing by 1, 2 arrows. So it's 24 divided by 2. Okay, another way that we could omit A is 24 divided by 12 is -2. Where did that negative come from? If we divide a positive by a positive, it's still going to be positive. So A's answer is not right. Okay, we're starting at 16, so we know it's not multiplication. Okay, we're starting at 16. These look good so far. They both start at 16. We're dividing by the number of arrows. 1, 2. So our answer is going to be 16 divided by 2 arrows. So even though C is right, I want to know how many arrows. That's how many I'm dividing by. My answer is going to be the length of one of my arrows. My length is 8. So our answer is 8. Okay, last one. It's starting at -6, so it's not multiplication. Okay, all of our answers are division, so that's fine. Look at where it's starting. It's starting at -6. So remember, your problem has to model your number line, or your number line is modeling your problem. So you should be able to see it there. If it's starting at -6, our first number is going to be -6. So this is a +6, so it can't be B. This is a -2, can't be D. Okay? And then we are dividing by how many arrows there are. So we should have -6 divided by, we have 1, 2, 3 arrows. So our answer is A. Okay? I hope that helps. We covered a little bit of multiplication in there, but this video was for dividing using counters and a number line.